Hello, welcome back to another one of these videos. Today we're going to be covering wall, and oof, looks like my perfectly clear ratio on this one is not great. That's okay. The way that wall it works is it indicates the lengths of consecutive mines in the neighboring 8 cells. If you've ever played the logic puzzle Tappa, it works the same way as that, but the idea is just, you can see here this clue is a 1 and a 4 in it, so it has a group of 1 mine continuously around the 8 cells, and then a group of 4. Similarly, you can see there's 2, 2, and 1 there, and this one has 5. This is just complete a puzzle over there. We're going to go ahead and go right into one of these. Okay, so one thing that we can immediately notice is that if this one here is a mine, then we know that this clue is finished, right? But for this 2, that does not work, since we would need another mine here or here. So we can then say that this is not a mine. And some of the logic from earlier about, like, especially just if we total the number of mines in each of these clues, work with, like, differences and stuff. So, like, for instance, since there's 1 mine around this clue and there's 1 mine in this total region, we know neither of these can be mines. And what this also tells us in the context of this 2 now is that if this one were a mine, for instance, both of these ones are non-mines, so we can never actually have a group of 2. So we know neither of these are mines. Similarly, and this is not similar actually, but something else we can note is that for this 3 we have we have 2 possibilities, right, for a group of 3 mines around it. If we start anywhere else, then it won't actually be long enough, or it'll be disconnected, so we know that both of these are mines. Using kind of similar logic, we can say that this one must be a mine, because out of the groups of size 2, both of them cover this. Something we can kind of now think about is what this 2's possibilities are. You can see that it's these 3. In the context of blue, we know that the other mine for this 2 must be here because it's finished. But in the context of red, it must be over there. And for yellow, I think we run into problems because if that's just the 2, then both of these ones are not filled in. And then regardless of whether we decide this one's the 1 or the 2 for this group, we can see that there isn't enough room to include the other one. So we can then say that this one is not a mine, and thus that one has to be a mine. There we are. We'll just go and get rid of this real quick. Okay. We can kind of notice that this cell is a distance of 3 away from both of our groups, so we know that it can't be the one that we're looking at. So, or rather, it can't be a mine. So there we are. Okay, we also know that this one is just completed, so is this 3 clue, so is that 1 clue, so is this 2 clue. Looks like this puzzle is quickly falling apart. We can finish up both of those. And since this is a group of size 1, rather, it has to be a group size 1, there we are. Something else we can notice is that if this one is filled in, then we know that the 2 group for this 1-2 clue is this right here, and here real quick. Okay, that gives us more information. It's fine. I want to finish up this first. Whereas if this one is here, then we don't necessarily know where the 2 group is. It could be this one or this one. By the way, we know it does not include this cell. And similarly from yellow, we know that's just also not included. So there we are. Okay, here, real quick. This one, that's the only possibility. Okay, well, that's fine. This is going to obfuscate some of the logic I was going to do over here, but that's okay. This is a 2-2 region. It's also just finished, and we actually now know that this 1-5 region is also completed. So this is 1-2 region, and then we have no mines left, and there we are. Okay, so there we go. That was a wall puzzle. We're going to go ahead and go to a more difficult one for this, and so you can see wall is one of the ones that I do more of, just because it's one of the ones I like a lot more. But yeah, here we are. Okay. So something we can think about first of all is that there are only a few possibilities for the 2 region of this one, right? It can be here, 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 or here. Okay. So first of all, in the case of yellow, we know that for this 2-2 group, the remaining ones must be like this, right? Similarly, in the case of red, we know there must be one here, and in the context of blue, we know it must go like down here, which then gives us a bit less information. That's okay. And lastly, in the context of purple, we just know that this group cannot be one, so we actually can also say that it is this. That's actually interesting. The purple one gives us a lot of information up here as well. Okay. And then we know this one also just isn't one, so there we are. These are some of the possibilities that we run into real quick here. Okay. This is close, but does not quite give us something definitive. But what it does tell us, at least in the context of blue, we also know that Since there's a whole group of 2 down here, there will only be 1 mine in this region, so this one also is a mine. So it also just tells us that one is not a mine right there. But otherwise, I'm trying to think. I guess also in the context of red, this logic also seems to work, so it's a little interesting right there. Except this one could still be a mine. I don't actually even recall why I marked this one as a non-mine for blue either. The only one that really works is purple, so never mind. Okay. In the context of yellow, though, there could be a mine in one of these 2, right? Yes, it appears like there could easily be. So I don't know if this is enough to just wholesale say that this one has to be a mine. In fact, I don't think it is necessarily. That's okay. I guess let's consider what happens if this one isn't a mine, right? Then we know that there has to be at least one mine. Well, I guess we know both of these are mines in order to finish up this 1-1 clue. So that also tells us that right there is not a mine. And then something else that we can notice here is that there isn't a way to put 2 groups of 2 around here where they won't intersect this 1-2 at least once, right? Like, no matter what, if we don't want it to intersect there, then we know that these ones cannot be filled in, but then this group can only satisfy 1-2, so there we are. What this then tells us is that, at worst, that would be what it is. Well, I guess it doesn't really matter. Regardless, we know the 2 group is going to have 1 cell in this region, so at minimum, so neither of those are filled in. But then we've now run into an issue where this 1-1 does not have enough mines around it, so we can then conclude that this one is filled in. Thus, that neither of those are. So now we know that there's 1 mine here, 1 mine here. That satisfies this clue, so there are no mines right there. There we are. Now from this 2 clue, and this is actually a common pattern you can see. If there's a clue of like some size, like 2 for instance, and there's just is a region of size less than 2, we can just say that that's not in there. So from here we can just solve all of these clues. This one's also finished. Something interesting to note is for this 1-2 clue, in both of these circumstances we can see this end one is filled in. And this will be the case for anything where you have like a I guess a run or whatever of like some number of cells and the sum of the clue around them has 1 minus that number of cells. Something else that we also now know is that for this 2 clue, it's either going to go this way or this way, right? In either context, we know that this cell down here will be filled in. In the yellow context, it could be this or this, but that's just an important thing to note, and the reason why it's the case in the red context is because that does not work. What this also tells us is that this one right here is not a cell. Or rather, it's not a mine, and we can just click that real quick. 4 ones tells us it's either this pattern or the inverse, where it's just this diamond pattern. This 5 is also finished, so this is 1-2. So this is, or 2-2, that 1-2 as well, and we have now reached a point where we have 0 mines left. So we can just click that and finish up. Alright. So we're now just going to go ahead and go into some just wall puzzles with some other variants included. We'll start with quad. If you don't recall quad, I don't know, watch the video. Give me views. So the first thing we're going to note here is that let's assume that there is no mine over here. So let's just assume this one's a mine, for instance. Then we know these 2 are mines, right, in order to finish this 1-1 clue. And we also know that since the 2 part of this 1-2 clue can only extend out to either these or this, that none of these are mines. But you can see we run into an issue here where there are no mines in this square. That tells us that our initial assumption is wrong, so we know that there's 1 mine here exactly. Since we need to get 2 more mines in this group, we know both of them are there. That finishes up this clue. This 1-4 clue is also just finished, so is this. And from here with quad logic, we can see that if we make this one a non-mine, then we have 2 boxes which cannot both be satisfied. So we know that's a mine. There we are. This 1-4 clue is now also just finished. There we are. Okay. And now from here, something that we can kind of, I guess, think about is what exactly this 3 clue is going to look like. Well, this 1-3 clue, I guess it doesn't necessarily matter as much as I hoped it would, because it could even be something like this, for instance. Like, it would either be that, or if this one goes like that, we get this. Similarly, we get this kind of structure. Or we can get something like this, which does not give us really any information at all. Maybe it'd be more fruitful to look at this one instead. So we know the 3 is either here, in which case this one is not a mine, or this one is the endpoint of the 3, so it's like this. Okay. I don't know if this gives us a ton. Maybe something I might do here real quick is just kind of think about the total. Yes, here we go. I've come up with something. So we know there are 3 mines in this region, right? Additionally, we know there are 3 mines in this region right here. That gives us our 6 remaining mines, so we can just go ahead and say none of these are mines, right? So first of all, from this 3, we know these 2 are mines, just from a idea we talked about earlier. That actually tells us what this 3 size region is. That allows us just to finish up these clues as well. Okay, let me just get rid of that real quick. This 3 is done, so that means this group of 3 is finished as well. There we are. So that kind of went pretty smoothly. Alright, I guess we can run through wall connected and wall triplet. This should be relatively fast since I'm much quicker at doing these, admittedly, some of the other ones. So we know from this 3 that this middle one at least must be a mine, just from the same idea where there aren't any regions that don't have it. Now then, since we're dealing with a connected puzzle, something that might be interesting to think about is, I guess, in the context of maybe like this 1-3 with this 2, for instance, like I think there are some circumstances where we can run into problems trying to connect things up. Like, for instance, if this mine here is a mine, or rather this square here has a mine in it, then we know none of these are mines, but in order for it to then connect up, we can see that it has to go around here, where actually this doesn't look like it runs into problems like I thought it might. Because we can just kind of draw this region like that, and yeah, there. Well, nope, here's the issue. I was thinking about a different piece of logic, or different variant rather, for a second, but no, you can see here actually that this 3 clue is no longer satisfied, so we know that this one up here cannot be a mine. Okay. So now then from this we know there's at most 1 mine there. Well, actually, since we know that there's at most 1 mine here and at most 1 mine here, we can actually say this perfectly splits up the regions. So then we know that there are not any mines around here for this 2, correct? Yes. Okay. So let's consider what happens if we have a mine here. For instance, this looks like it might be the most forcing route. Yes, it is. We run into the same problem as before. The reason why I marked off both of these is just because we would know theoretically this has to be the case. So we know this one cannot not be a mine, thus this one's a mine. But in order to connect it with everything else, it has to go out through here. So we can just click on those. For this 1, 2, we know both of these must be mines, but for this one to connect, it needs to go out there. So there we are, finish up that, do that for connection, and we know since there's difference of 2, that must also be a mine. That just finishes up these clues. And since this one's a choke point for this mine, there we are. For this group of 3, it can no longer go all the way down there, so we can mark that. This one's just finished, so is this 3, so is that clue. There we are. Now there's 1 mine left and 1 square left, so we can finish up the puzzle. Alright. Well, now real quick, I guess do a wall triplet. This one is interesting in the respect where it limits the maximum number for any clue up to like 4. Like, or the maximum number up to 3. You can have ones of 4, just have that multiple groups. Okay, so here we are. So I guess the first thing we can consider is what happens if like the mine is up here, for instance, for this 1 clue. Then we know neither of these ones are mines. Well, actually, let's just say it's over here specifically. Then we can say that this one's a mine here, and actually the reason I guarantee this is because this runs into a contradiction where we have a row of 3. So we can say that this one cannot be a mine. There we are, looks like that's the one they want me to find, so you can see now for this 2, that's the only way to fill it in, but that would get us a row of 3 if we don't mark this one as a non-mine. Similarly, we could just kind of do that from some wall clue logic. Okay. So now then, let's consider what happens in each of these cases. First of all, there's a mine here, then we can mark both of these as non-mines, and that one right there is a non-mine. And something else to note about the 3 clues is we know that they can't be like a row of 3 like this, for instance. It has to bend a corner like this or like this. What this has importantly told us is that it cannot bend this corner specifically. But actually, we already know that from this 1. So we know this one will always be a mine, right? Because it's either going to bend that corner or bend that corner. Anyway, now let us, I guess, continue the case analysis here. So we can see this is one possibility. The other possibility is that it's right here instead. So what this then gets us is we know that this one can't be a mine, because if it were, then we have overloaded this one, right? So I think that's what's really telling us, is that this relationship here is always the case. There we are. I guess then in the context of this red one, we know both of these are mines, which tells us this is not mine, this is not mine, and this is not a mine, as well as that. All of this just kind of from triplet logic. That one there was just because wall clue. And then since this one's too far away, we know this group must be the case like that. Alright. Alternatively, in the yellow context, I don't know if that one gives us as much information, unfortunately. Which means that we might not be getting as much information from this line in general. But I guess let's think real quick. We can consider what happens if this one's a mine, for instance, and see if this runs into any problems. Yes, it does, because then we know this one must be a mine in order to satisfy this 1-3-1 clue. So we can then say that in the yellow context, this is also not a mine, or the yellow case, I don't know, I keep saying context. So that actually gives us not only this, but we also know this one always is going to be a mine, so any deductions made from it are also always valid. There we are. Okay. Alright, so in the red case, we know that these two are mines, that one is not a mine, neither is this. In the yellow case, we know, first of all, this one is still going to be a mine, just from, in order to finish up this 1-3 clue. We also now know that we need to get a row of 2 somewhere, and another 1. The only way to actually do that is with this. If we try to put the row of 2 down here, then there is enough room for the final 1, so we can say this one is always a mine. Now then, we also know this one is not a mine, and so neither is this one, because we already have the 2 for this 1-1-2, so there we are. Okay. Whereas in the red case, we can, well, actually we can also mark this one real quick, so not mine. In the red case, we can see that this is our row of 2, so we know one of those 2 must be a mine. Doesn't give us much. Oh, I found something though. This might be a weakness of doing this by cases. Actually, at least for me, makes it hard to spot things. Or rather, hard to think about things in simpler ways. We just know this one can't be a mine. Since that's a deduction that we had to do with the yellow case, we know that the red case is accurate. So we can just go ahead and fill in all of this stuff real quick. Mark that off real quick. There we are. Okay. In order to finish up that, we just need to put 2 mines down there. But we now have a diagonal row of 3, so we can just mark that as non-mine. And with finishing this clue, we have also finished the puzzle, because there are no remaining mines. So there we are. Okay, and, yeah, I don't think there are any of these. I mean, I guess I could do the dreaded connected triplet that I didn't do last time. I don't think I am, though. I think I'm going to stick to, I guess it's a quadruple. I'm going to stick to just doing these at a future time. Even the unary wall one, because really this one isn't a wall puzzle. It's wall just acts as a way to talk about unary, but we'll get to that eventually. I think otherwise, that is everything for this video. Alright, so thank you for listening. Rather, for watching, I guess. I assume you were. I can't imagine it's particularly great to just listen to no video. With that, I'm going to end this video. See you next time.